Tonight, we're deeply honored to have with us Alessandro Zanardo, the current CEO of Thélios. Alessandro first began his career in brand management at Ferrari, after which he undertook a 4-year stint as a senior consultant at Roland Berger Strategy Consultants. In 2010, he joined Luxottica's business planning division, where he managed sales planning for emerging markets and later on for worldwide distribution channels as well. Over the course of his 11 years at Luxottica, Alessandro served as the group's business development director in Russia, country manager in South Africa, and finally general manager in Brazil. Then in 2022, he was appointed as CEO of Thélios, where he set out to strengthen the company amidst a significant growth in its portfolio of brands. Today, Thélios manages the eyewear collections of 13 houses, namely Vuarnet, Barton Perreira, as well as 11 of LVMH's labels, including Dior, Fendi, Celine, Givenchy, Loewe, Stella McCartney, Kenzo, Berluti, Bvlgari, Heuer and Fred. Under Alessandro's leadership, Thélios has expanded its reach, creating iconic collections that blend technical precision with artistic vision, while still maintaining its commitment to sustainability and luxury. Alessandro's strategic frame of mind and keen understanding of the luxury market have been instrumental in transforming Thélios into a powerhouse of innovation, not only elevating the consumer experience, but setting a new standard for the industry, proving that the future of eyewear can be defined by both function and fashion. In today's world, with emerging trends and constantly evolving markets, luxury is no longer just about being seen, but about seeing differently, and few understand this better than our guests today. Alessandro has not only helped shape the future of eyewear at Thélios, but has reframed how we see craftsmanship, innovation, and cultural identity altogether. We're delighted to have him in this beautiful venue in Oxford tonight to share his journey, his vision, and perhaps a few insights into what it means to truly see, not just with the eyes, but with the mind and the heart as well. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the stage Alessandro Zanardo, CEO of Thélios.
Good evening. So, thank you very much, Kathleen, for these kind words. I'm very pleased to be here tonight. Thank you for being here with me instead of being in an aperitivo in a beautiful sun shining, which actually is giving me some hope for the UK market for sunglasses. So before we start, I've been asked to give a few words about my trajectory. So I will not be boring talking about my CV, but I thought about myself when I was a student, and I'm coming with a couple of concepts that I would have liked to receive at that time. So I finished my university 25 years ago, my MBA 20 years ago. I still feel I'm very close to you, but in reality, the time is passing very fast. So there are these two concepts I'm going to concentrate in the next 10, 15 minutes that summarize really what my reflection about myself in career and in personal life is. The first concept is being open to destiny. And the second is knowing yourself. If I think, I always admire those people that have real clarity in life since they were young. Those who want to study at Oxford and become a Nobel Prize, those who want to be a teacher, primary school teacher to shape the new generations. Myself, I've never been like that. I changed my goals, my plans thousands of times. I never had clarity. And today, after a long time in my career, well, I'm in the middle of my career, this clarity is not a problem anymore. This lack of clarity is not a problem anymore. And I'm thinking about it in a different way. So I remember that, as Kathleen said, I had a time when after the MBA, I was a strategy consultant for 4 years. And in the first year of consulting, there was a colleague of mine, same age, super sharp, super self-confident, and super with a clear mind and goal in life. And he told me, I have only one goal, which is becoming a CEO. And I thought, okay, wow, it looks a long shot. It looks really ambitious. And I thought about myself. I'm not coming from a family of corporate executive. I'm not have the right network, probably. And in reality, I really didn't care. It didn't interest to me. So after 20 years, I am a CEO since 4 years. and he's not. I'm sure he will be. I'm sure he will be because he deserves it. But what I want to tell you is that why I'm here is not a plan, is not a goal. It has been a sequence of facts, events, chances in life, not planned, but a situation that I've decided to embrace and embrace enthusiastically. So what I think that really, for much of my career, I didn't know what to choose. I changed path continuously. Okay, so yes, I was in business. That is the more, the broader scope of my career, but I didn't know where to go in automotive, in marketing, in strategy, in finance. So I tried most of the things. And today, really, what I think is that this undecisiveness, this lack of clarity probably, has been actually for me not a problem, but a driver for my growth and for my development. That's how I look at today. And really what I think it has been a gift. So I think that who has clarity has a gift, but also who has not a clarity has a gift, because I can try different things, experience different situations, see different countries, different industries, and create a portfolio of experiences which are really precious in life. So in the way I have approached things, because of this lack of clarity, because I wanted to experiment things, different things, and then taking a decision, I was moved by curiosity, a sincere curiosity, to understand things, to understand and compare things, to understand situation, countries, people. And curiosity is, to me, the sincere curiosity, a pillar of journeys, the professional journey, and the life journey, which are always connected. Curiosity puts you in an attitude which is the attitude of why not, instead of why. And then, so you look at the positive things, the positive side of things. So there is a ping pong between why not and why. But start from the why not. Because a lot of people, when they have an opportunity, they start thinking about what is the negative side. Instead, think, why not? What is that reframing to do this specific point? So I'll give you a couple of examples of my career. So when I was at university, I was at Bocconi. I was looking at the last year of university to explore a career in international organizations. I was interested in UNESCO in that time. And by chance, almost by chance, I met this person who was an executive of Ferrari, and he offered me an internship. And trust me, I don't like cars. I hate cars. I'm into bicycles. I hate cars. And everybody loves Ferrari. I don't. And I told myself, well, why not? Let's try. So I went there, I took this internship, and I remained for 3 years there. I'll give you another example. 10 years later, I was working for another company, a big multinational, and they told me, there's an opportunity to go and build the local operations in Russia. I didn't speak any Russian. I was supposed to go there by myself and build a team of 50 people. And there is no manual to do this kind of things. It just tells you, go. Do you want to go? So I have to anticipate my wedding. I got married before 3 weeks before leaving, and we moved there because I said myself, why not? What can happen to me? If when you are 30-year-old, in the worst case scenarios, people will tell you, you were young, it's fine, but then you go and you test yourself, you challenge yourself. And that experience in Russia to me has been the most rewarding one in my career, and probably the turning point that has taken me to do a further step and arrive to now. There are many other situations and chances that I'm not going to list, but it really has been a characteristic of my life. Of course, like everyone, I made many mistakes, and I think it's banal to say I learned from my mistakes. Of course I learned from my mistakes, of course. But the reason why I'm happy is, when I look backwards, is how many times I got opportunities by chance, and before saying no, I said, why not? And There is a book, when I was studying economics, there was this book, I suggest you to read it. It's called Freak Economics. I don't know if it's still popular in business and economics. And there was a chapter talking the story of this guy who was deciding his own life based on flipping a coin. So he was deciding, should I eat pizza or spaghetti? Flipping a coin, fine, easy. Should I accept that job offer or not? Flipping a coin, a little less easy. Should I marry that girl or not? Flipping a coin. So the coin was deciding his life. I don't remember the end of it, and I didn't have the time to take the book back because it's 20 years I don't read it. I remember clearly that the end was tragedy. So that's not the kind of openness to destiny that I'm talking about, not at all. Because openness to destiny requires calibrate risk-taking. It requires to be able to spot if there are strong red flags in opportunities. But then if you take a challenge, you need to take it very seriously. You just don't take it to see how it's going. You have to put all your effort, all your concentration, all your energies and take it seriously. The end is less, so the achievement of the goal is less important than the attitude on how you face these challenges when you're young. Later, the result counts. So, all this variety of experiences, countries where I've been living in, the first country I've been living in was actually UK. And I tell you, my first job experience was actually not in Ferrari, it was in London. And I was selling bagels at Bond Street Station. And it has been the most amazing experience in my life to test myself when I was 19-year-old. All these experiences, variety of countries, UK, as I said, Russia, South Africa, Brazil, now I'm living in France. They all help me to understand very well what I do not want. So in this journey, I understand that I have something that I really don't want, more than say what I want. What I want, I will analyze it. I know very well today what I don't want. So there was this first boss of mine, so I was 25 and he was probably 70, quite experienced. Not a nice guy, not at all, but very experienced, very wise. And he told me, look, Alessandro, there is one thing you need to learn. You have to learn how to say no. Because he was seeing me accepting too many challenges probably, too many tasks. And he told me really this precious lesson. You have to learn when and how to say no, which is much more difficult than saying yes. It has been a precious lesson, and every time now I have to mentor people, because I have the lack of mentoring many people, it's a lesson, one of the first lessons I tell them. So the balance of wise no and brave yes is really what allows you to take the right challenges. And challenges that must be more and more complicated every time. So you build a portfolio of challenges that allows you then to be ready to manage something which is more complicated. So managing a company, like I have the luck to do today, it means managing complexity. And whether you are in a multinationals like we are, or you are running a small business, it's complexity. And the capacity of managing complexity is what really makes the challenge, the difference. And the other point is the attitude of thinking we can do it, regardless how tough the things are, how different the things are, how the standards are that you need to change. The attitude of saying we can do it and manage the complexity is what makes the difference when you lead a company. In this process of being open to destiny, what happened? You also continuously test yourself. You have endless questions and doubts. So, like the person of freak economics, he didn't have doubts, so he had the coins. So you have doubts instead. Would I be able to survive in that difficult countries? So I went to Africa, I went to Brazil, they're not easy places. Will my family be happy with me? Because you're not alone when you move in your life. Will I be able to take this new role? So I became CEO when I was 41. And of course, I had the imposter syndrome, okay? It's something that everybody has. You ask yourself, are you really worth the position? Are you really worth the role? And when you are a young CEO, and I am a millennial, and most of my peers, CEOs of partners, clients, suppliers, are other generations. They are Gen X, they are boomers. They have doubts about yourself. So you need to know very well about yourself, what to put on the table. And it cannot just be industry knowledge, okay? So I come from Eyewear. I have a long experience of Eyewear, but it's not what makes the difference. It's giving the perspective that makes the difference. But you need to know who you are. You need to know what you are bringing on the table. So this is the second concept. So the first concept was embrace your destiny, or be open to your destiny. The second is know yourself. Knowing yourself, I go back to the point that I've been living in many countries. So I'm a professional expat, let's call it like that. No? And when you are a professional expat and you face so many cultures, you understand one thing, you understand who you are, what your values are. And I give you an example. I'm Italian. And when I was in Italy, I didn't feel really Italian. Being abroad, I feel very Italian. And what does it mean? It's not that I'm noisy or messy. Noisy I'm not. Messy maybe I am. The point is there are some characteristics that has shaped my mind, way of thinking, and way of behaving, which are crucial. For example, Italy is a community-driven country, community-driven culture, family-driven culture. It's chaotic culture. So what I know about myself is that I struggle in situations where there is a high level of individuality, when there is a rigid culture, when the parameters are set and you need to stay on that. I struggle on that, and I don't judge it. They are fantastic, like any culture is fantastic, but I struggle in that. So today I would never accept a job in that kind of cultures. Also, this journey helped me to understand what are my weaknesses, my blind spots, and understand that in reality they can be turned into positive spots. Again, 2 examples. I am an introvert, and if you are in corporate life, it's much harder for introvert, full stop. It is, because corporate life is for extrovert, at least at the first sight. They speak more, they're more loudly, they are in the meeting, their share of voice is much bigger. And so at the beginning you feel that being an introvert is a problem. It took me decades to understand that in reality it is a power. What I mean by that, today I focus in my capability at listening. And I believe I'm good at perceiving people reaction and emotion. And emotional intelligence is crucial when you lead a team. I speak only after having collected high quantity of information. And I have analyzed all the perspectives possible of the problems. I love the concept of quiet leadership. So there is the stereotypes of aggressive business leadership. I hate it. It's not modern, it's ancient. I love the concept of quiet leadership, which means that people feel at ease. Sometimes at the same time I need to push myself and remind that this introversy means that sometimes people cannot read in my mind, so I need to be explicit. Sometimes with a lot of effort I go and I do small talks at the coffee machines. It's a lot of effort, but it's needed. But I know I'm an introvert, I need to compensate and I do it. Second, I am lazy and get bored easily. There are other two positive characteristics. So, I'm lazy, it's actually not negative. It means that I don't waste energy, and I try not to let my team waste the energies. My meetings start on time and finish on time, and we don't spend time talking about useless things. I hope so, at least. As I said, I get bored easily, so what I need continuous challenges. I look for jobs where there is a need of developing new things. I love the concept of entrepreneurship, which is a bit different from entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship, you are in a big organization and you need to find new markets, new business model, but respecting the rules of large organizations. And maybe we'll talk later why Thélios represent exactly this. So what I think is knowing yourself is a power, but being able to convert your weaknesses into strengths can be a superpower. I'm almost done. So I believe I have a limited observatory, but I think that this observatory resonates with where you will be in the future. And I saw two main characteristics that really prevent brilliant people, talented people, to achieve the maximum success. The first is the unconscious unwillingness to take risks. Sometimes you don't realize that you're not willing to take risks. You are not willing to take risks. But if you have a new job opportunity, I see so many people wondering how they can minimize and avoid any risk, but it's impossible. If you're going something new, you have to accept that there is a risk and that things don't go as you are planning. The second is not being enough self-aware. What I think is everybody is saying that the world is, the talent is a scarce resource. In reality, I think that the world is full of talents, but the reality is that talents sometimes lack of common sense. And common sense is crucial because it means that if you have common sense, you can spot what are your weaknesses, your blind spot, and turn them into positive ones. I summarize and I close here. And so this my two suggestions for you as a student that I would like somebody had told me when I was there, and maybe somebody told me and I didn't remember. First, be open to any opportunities. Start from the why not. Maybe, once again, you know precisely where you want to go and go for it, and I respect you, but maybe you will find out in 30 years, and it's not a problem. Second, know yourself, and you know that it's not me saying this, it was Socrates 2,400 years ago, and it was valid there, it's valid now in life, and it's valid now in management. Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you for that inspiring perspective if you're setting the stage so thoughtfully. Before we begin, I'd like to start by taking us all the way back to the beginning of your journey. So it's 2002. You're in the middle of your master's in economics and have just begun your job at Ferrari. What actually inspired you to pursue your career path? You mentioned that you don't come from a corporate background. So what do you like about business?
No, as I said, initially I didn't want to be in business, but it happened. What inspired me in business is that you actually can leave a mark, can change things. So in my career, I try to go in that direction. So if you take it, so I started in Ferrari. After 3 years, I changed, also because Ferrari is a fantastic company, but it's based in a very small town in the middle of nowhere, and so career is important, but life is important too. So I made this MBA, and after MBA I went to consulting because consulting gave me the opportunity to decide later, to postpone the moment of decision. And I loved consulting in reality. The point was consulting is a military training in reality. It helps you shape your way of thinking, your capability of analyzing things, but then you lack of ownership, and I have a strong need of ownership of things, and so instead of going to a company as a consultant, suggest a project and not knowing what was happening after, not implementing it, for me was a problem, so I decided to move into corporate for this.
And so you went into consulting after completing your MBA in 2006. How did your career ambitions shift as you gained perspective and experience? Because you started out, as you said, you had no plans to become a CEO. So when did that feeling of, oh, my career ambitions are rising, when did that come up?
If you have the personality that want to have ownership, you want always a little bit more ownership in something more complicated. Then it's not the title; it's really the scope that you will that you want to manage. So once again, from that in consulting, you see so many things, so many functions, industry. I've been working in pharma. I've been working in commodities. I've been working in public administration. So it's very, very rewarding from this point of view. Corporate instead give you really the ownership, and you start with a little project, and then you go to a small market, then you go to a bigger market, and then you want the world. And so that's the kind of sequence that counts. But really, the point is not the role. The point is how complex the topic you feel you're able to manage and you want to manage that is relevant, and how much you will be able to change things. So you have fantastic managers at managing stable businesses. That is not me. You have managers that are more apt to changing things. Or more that are important, depending on the stage, on the age of a company, the requirement of the company at a certain moment. But that's I am more of the second type of manager.
So you mentioned that at that point you worked across many different business functions. Then in 2010, we saw you really engaging with the eyewear industry for the first time. What do you like about eyewear?
Can I say that I went into eyewear by chance again? Because, and I'll be honest, consulting, I loved it, but you work 6-7 days a week for like 18 hours, and I said, as I said before, career is important, life is more important. So at a certain moment I said, I want something different. I want to go in somewhere where I can have a balance between life and career. And I started to look for opportunities. Then eyewear came out by chance because there was this company, sort of Luxottica, where there was a focus on something I was very interested in. That was not the product, it was they were developing emerging markets. In that moment, emerging markets were still to be developed from scratch almost, and I saw there the opportunity to leave a mark. And that's actually what was the initial point of reflection to move there. Then, of course, it's the component of made in Italy, to me as an Italian, is important. I always had an attitude towards an aesthetic, to work in an environment where the aesthetic part is relevant. And you see, Ferrari at the end, even if I don't like cars, there is the element of aesthetic. In eyewear, there is a strong element of aesthetic. So there were a number of factors that told me, why not going in that opportunity.
And during your time at Luxottica, you mentioned earlier this idea of quiet leadership. During your time at Luxottica, you obviously took on roles with increasing levels of leadership. Was there a specific turning point when you realized that you were a quiet leader, that you had developed this type of leadership style? And how is it more or less advantageous than other forms of leadership?
Yes, there was a moment, and I think when I moved to South Africa. When I moved to South Africa, it was my first general management experience. And why South Africa? Because South Africa is very far away from the center of business, but still it's a market which is quite complicated, modern and emerging at the same time. But the big point was that the team there was a bit abandoned just because they were very far. And it's a country where you have a number of ethnicities and heritages and different culture within the same culture. And so there was a clear need of somebody giving a perspective, but also respecting and understanding the different perspectives of these heritages. And I saw there that we needed to change things, and giving myself, being able to respect and understand these different perspectives and work as a, how can I say, not a referee, but a connection between them, and respecting all of them and putting them together was very much appreciated. And I understood that in that situation, probably an aggressive leader would have not been as effective. And so I enjoyed that. There are situations where you need, the quiet leadership doesn't work in reality. If I had to say that, and I don't judge it. There are cultures where you need to be more directive. There are cultures where you need to be more soft-spoken and able to respect and go across the different needs of the organization.
And so from the position you're in now, let's talk eyewear. How do you think the eyewear industry's evolution parallels or contrasts with that of other luxury categories such as watches or bags? What unique challenges does eyewear face in the wider luxury ecosystem?
So, probably I would not compare to bags. I would compare rather to sneakers. Also watches is a good example, but the point of sneakers is because it's a category that didn't used to be luxury, didn't used to be considered luxury, and it became as such very recently. Also, eyewear is the same. I mean, it exists in a long time, so they were branded eyewear since decades, but still, from the consumers, from the Maison point of view, was not really perceived as the same dignity of bags or clothes. No? And so it entered in that universe later. It entered thanks to the connection to the Maison, to the development of new material solutions, the emphasis of craftsmanship. So it took time and it's still in the process of becoming such. And sneaker was the same, honestly. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, nobody would have considered sneakers a luxury category. Today, they have the full dignity for any Maison. The other interesting connection is with watches. Watches was a luxury category, probably since ever. But what was the definition? The definition was a Rolex, and I'm not an expert of watches, but the definition was a Rolex of 5,000 euros, 10,000 euros. And at a certain point, 15 years ago, a brand like Richard Mille came out and started selling products at minimum 120,000 euros. And everybody said, just a niche. No, in reality, it's an evolution of the category into something even more luxury. So this is the connection I see. The peculiarity of eyewear, which is very, very important, are two. First, one is the function. Sunglasses fine, but then there are the optical frames that are perceived as a paramedical business. And paramedical is not charming like the luxury is supposed to be. The second is they are sold mostly in wholesale environment, while luxury is more and more sold in home boutique of the Maisons. And why it's sold there? Because there they can recreate their own universe, give an experience. They can be 100% sure that the values of each Maison is addressed to the consumers. So it's not just the product, it's the experience. When you are in a wholesale environment, so we sell products, eyewear to opticians, not only, but mostly opticians, you cannot really control what is happening. No? And you are in a multi-brand environment versus the Maison that have their own brands only there and they can control everything. So these are the two main differences, and in particular the second one is the really one that keeps eyewear in a different situation versus other categories.
As you've said, in recent decades, eyewear has gone from being a largely functional to a highly fashionable luxury market. How do you delineate this balance between function and fashion in eyewear? Does eyewear need to prioritize one over the other, or can it truly serve both purposes equally?
Well, let's say I'm very lucky to have a category that has also the functional part so strong, because let's take not the sunglasses, let's take the optical glasses in this moment. There is a crisis of luxury. People still need frames and optical frames, and so it's a more stable business. Also, it's a secular business because it goes with the population and the increasing problem in sight. So regardless of what is happening to economy, people still need glasses, so this gives stability. And so it's a component that we will never avoid, and we're just lucky to have it. Then it's starting maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, to add the components of aesthetics, which is super important, but still has room to develop, meaning that it's not really that everybody perceives optical frames as something which must be aesthetical. But the number of consumers that start to have this sensibility is increasing and increasing. Depends on market, generation and generation. But so we are still in a situation where the market has room to be further explored.
And that makes me wonder, what role do you think eyewear plays in shaping a person's overall style and self-expression? And how has the industry been responding to consumers' increasing demand for products that reflect their own identities and values?
Let's say, if you enter in a store, you may find 3, 4, 5, I'm not an expert, of bags. You can find 10 and 10s of different model of eyewear. So the amplitude of offer is much bigger because the industry has been developed as such, and so is targeting many different needs. The other point is there are still elements that need to be further refined, because if you consider, then depends by market, generation by generation, things are changing rapidly. But I remember when I arrived in Brazil, and it was 8 years ago, people were going to do jogging with luxury eyewear or branded eyewear. But would you go climbing the mountain with a pair of sneakers? No, you will not. So there is still the segmentation of different styles, also with different purposes, is still shaping itself. Then the offer is so big and so large that really there is something that can express everybody personality, everybody needs. And if you consider, also take our portfolio. We have from brands which are really logo-driven, brands which are really understated, brands which are really sophisticated and technology-driven. So there is a variety of brands and offer that really respond to many different personalities and needs.
As fashion and function continue to merge, the future of eyewear is likely to include further advancements in innovative frame designs and the integration of wearable technology. Nowadays, for instance, we're seeing more and more eyewear brands move away from the mass market one-size-fits-all designs and more towards the personalized options, whereby consumers are encouraged to customize their own eyewear with embellishments or attachable accessories. How do you see the role of bespoke eyewear evolving as people seek greater control over their own designs?
Honestly, I think it is a niche and will remain a niche, at least in the market where we play in, because in luxury eyewear, I think the element which really makes the difference and consumers are looking for is the creativity, and the creativity that's given by a certain maison and a certain universe. And so they want that bag, they want that eyewear that they saw in a fashion show, that they saw in a certain movie. So customization, yes, there is something, but it's a niche. I also believe that in today's world, there are so many little brands that are popping up, which the offer is so much big, so much larger, that if somebody wants something very different, can find a brand which is unknown and just use it. So no, I don't think it's really a big market that is coming in.
And for a very long time, luxury has been associated with traditional craftsmanship and timeless design, whereas technology is all about constant iteration and reinvention. Smartwatches, for example, have been successfully integrated, I think, into luxury fashion. But despite major advances such as those we've seen from Apple, Google, most recently Ray-Ban and Meta, smart eyewear has yet to achieve the same level of success. What do you think is the biggest obstacle standing in the way of mainstream adoption of smart eyewear? And what will define this tipping point where consumer perception allows smart eyewear to go from a niche innovation to a mass market product?
Maybe it's not a niche innovation anymore, meaning that the things are changing very fast. If I look from our perspective of, let's say, a bit of external observer, because we are luxury and we do something different, I see two components. One is very simply the design. The smart glasses are quite heavy. They're becoming lighter and lighter, but if you have to keep them for hours or the full day in your head, in your face, the weight and the chunkness, it's a point. The second is what is the reason why. So you need something which can substitute completely something that you have. So I think that the real moment of change will be when smart glasses will substitute the mobile phone. When it's parallel to it, it will not be a full potential. It's not to be excluded. I mean, all the research there. Then also we need to define what is smart glasses, because there is not a unique definition. Today there are smart glasses where you can just hear music or use the phone, talk on the phone. There are smart glasses with artificial intelligence where you can control it by voice. There are smart glasses where you can project information on the lenses. So there are different definitions, but really I believe that the market, the future is big. It has all the potential and the speed of development that is required for a large market. But the big change will be when it can substitute something that already exists, that most likely is the mobile.
So let's talk Thélios. Thélios has made an indelible mark on the eyewear industry at the intersection of French refinement and Italian artisanship. At present, it manages the eyewear collections of 13 houses. And of course, each of these houses have their own distinct brand identity, heritage, and customer base. How do you ensure that each eyewear collection authentically reflects the DNA of its respective maison?
So let's say that we really believe we are partnered with the maisons. Most of the maisons, they have their own internal designers, which collaborate with ours, which are more technical. And the point of difference of Thélios is that in the past, eyewear luxury was interpreted as a license, which means okay, I have a brand, I give you a contract, you can use my logo and develop the eyewear. Today we see it in a much more integrated way. So the maison started to believe that eyewear is a critical part of their universe, each maison in a different way. But once it's a critical part of the universe, it means that creativity behind it must be at the same level of the other categories. So we partner with them in this development, and we grant that all the execution at the same level. So it's not just design, but it's materials, it's execution of manufacturing, quality, and distribution. Then each maison, as you said, had different characteristics and different positioning. And so with them, we explore a solution that responds better to what are their needs, once again, in their universe.
And earlier, during your speech, you mentioned this idea of entrepreneurship. So I'm interested to know how this manifests in research and development for your eyewear materials and designs. Do you develop advancements that all the brands can leverage, or do you tailor innovations to the needs of specific individual maisons?
It's both. Meaning that we started, so we are a young company. The company exists since 8 years, and it started from scratch. So we had to develop, and I arrived 4 years ago in the middle. So we have to develop our own way of working. When you start a company, you have many priorities, and you cannot do everything at the same time. So it started with the research and development that was passive, let's say, a requirement from the maison, and then a development made on purpose. Now we move to a an ongoing research and development where we look for materials, we look for technical solution, and then we talk with the maison that are more appropriate to this solution we find out and we implement it. We have a maison that have the needs of technical solution. We have maison that are really characterizing themselves, for example, by innovative materials, take Heuer. With them, we work only on really developing materials that have never been in eyewear before. They exist in other categories, but never in eyewear. So we respond really to the need of the maison, and we apply the research that we develop ongoing to the needs that they have as positioning.
In that sense, are there any specific brands where you see Thélios taking on more of a creator role versus a collaborator or curator role? Or does the company consistently embody elements of all three roles, regardless of the brand in question?
We are collaborators when we talk about maison. Because, once again, they are the brand owners, they are the creativity owners, and so we collaborate for this category. However, we started like that, but after a few years where we set up a certain industrial network, we internalize know-how at maximum level, we started to look at something else, and we made a couple of acquisitions of independent eyewear brands. For those two brands that probably you don't know because they are very localized. One is Vuarnet, which is a French brand. The other is Barton Perreira, which is American brand, very much focused on US. We are brand owners, so there we control the full scope, and we develop the brand position, the brand needs, and like if we are our internal maison, we are becoming a federation of brands in this sense.
We talked a little bit about how eyewear is becoming more of a statement of individuality rather than just a practical accessory. This idea of hiding behind sunglasses can sometimes reflect a desire to boost confidence or set boundaries. We've already touched on the visual aspect and the technical aspect of eyewear design, but how does Thélios approach this psychological aspect? Do you integrate this as a consideration?
We have a big team of PhD in psychology. No, I'm kidding. In reality, no. The answer is simply no, meaning that given the width of the portfolio, and at the end we have roughly 3,000 SKUs active in every precise moment, and we launch, we renew 80% of the assortment every year. So we have so many that we can cover all these needs, psychological needs of consumers.
Moving away from design and onto distribution, Thélios is positioned amongst the high-end brands, and in a market where many luxury products are becoming more democratized, how do you preserve exclusivity while still appealing to a mass audience?
Well, three things. Creativity that I don't repeat. The second is the quality of the product. So our products are made in Italy, and we have factories in a valley close to the Dolomites, which for some historical reason has concentrated one of the best know-how in eyewear in the world. And it's a valley of few thousand people where every family has a history of eyewear. But in reality, you find some know-how which is specific, and you find it only there. And so being there for us is critical elements of success, because it represents the highest standards for our category. And more we develop ourselves, the more we internalize this know-how. But that, by the way, is that in some cases is at risk of being lost. So we also have a goal of perpetuating this know-how. And you believe eyewear, it's industrial machinery, it's a lot of manual work that we have to perpetuate. So once again, creativity and execution by internalizing know-how. The third is distribution. As I said, eyewear has the characteristic of being one of the few, or maybe the only category of luxury that is mostly sold in wholesale environment, in third-party environments. So a pillar for us is the selected distribution. In the world there are roughly 400,000 opticians. We work with a little fraction of them because we just select those that have the characteristics that can be at the level where the brands deserve to be. Still you don't control it because it's their own business, but we work such in a partnership with these opticians that we feel comfortable that the brands there have the dignity they deserve. And in terms of experience of the stores, in terms of service, in terms of visual merchandising, execution. So this is a real pillar that we work more and more in our strategy.
And focusing on creativity and execution, how do you ensure that every eyewear collection you produce is maintained at the highest possible quality, especially considering their varying price points and target markets?
Yeah, in reality we play in one target market, in one positioning, let's say, because the span of price where we play is very short. We start from 350 euros and we go to 1,000, so it's quite a short span. Let's say we have some maisons which are our teachers, meaning that they want absolute quality, because absolute quality is a mantra of luxury, of course, but for them it's more than the average. And so together with them, we set the standard. And so once you set the standard for the most demanding maison, then you apply for everyone, because you have developed a mindset, you have developed processes, controls, and way of working which are transversal to the whole organization.
Along this line of thinking, how does Thélios adapt its approach to different global markets? We learned through your experience that you've clearly had a lot of experience and you're very well versed in navigating the different cultural nuances across the globe. So I'm interested to know if, for example, there are certain design elements or features that resonate more with consumers in Asia versus those in Europe, for example.
Absolutely. I'm not a designer, so I will not enter in the details, but there are something which is very simple, that the conformity, the shape of nose in Asia is different from the European ones, and so you need a different fitting. You may have the same glasses, but replicated with different fitting, so it means 2 SKUs. And then there are tastes. Tastes linked to cultural preferences rather than in shape of the face. And so while in the past there was the collection is this one, it's for all the world, now we look at really tastes. We cannot say country by country because it would be unbearable from the industrial point of view, but Asia is becoming an important point of, let's say, specificities when we look at design. Still, it must be within the overall uniformity of a collection of a maison, but specific shapes really respond much better to needs of specific regions.
You said just now that selective distribution is one of the most important pillars for Thélios. You don't want to be everywhere. You want to be perfectly expressed in the right locations to catch the right customers, such that this brand expression can enjoy full voice. In the face of fluctuating global travel patterns and consumer behaviors, how does Thélios envision the expansion of its presence in the travel retail sector over the next 5 years?
Let's say travel retail is specific. First of all, you sell only sunglasses, not optical frames. It's not the nicest place to do shopping. Oh, it used not to be, actually, the nicest place to do shopping. In reality, there is more and more a tendency to have luxury stores in travel retail, and there are actually some airports which are really comparable to the best high streets in the world. We do it our own way. We are starting to do some tests. For example, last year we launched a new store in Qatar, which we control completely. We design, we make the consumer experience by using a combination of digital tools and traditional tools. So we develop internally a virtual try-on, for example, with people who pass by, and in the monitor there is the sunglasses put in their face real time. And so we try to give an experience in a place where people can stop while they have to spend time in travel retail, because usually people have time in travel retail when they are in airports, and can have a nice experience they can remember. And they can associate this to the sunglasses or to that specific brand. Also, we train the sales associate very much. It doesn't mean that the sales at the end happen there, but at the end we train the consumers also that sunglasses are a luxury category. So maybe they buy somewhere else in the boutique and opticians, but at least there we have a precious moment to talk to the consumers that we can talk directly. We did the first test in Qatar last year. We're going to replicate in other airports in the coming years.
Switching gears for a bit, Thélios has been the official eyewear sponsor for the Venice International Film Festival for the past 3 years. What does this partnership represent for the company, and how do you see it evolving in the future?
Well, we just renovated for the next 3 years, which I'm very happy about. As I said, there are a number of connections. The first is geographical. Venice is the capital of the region where Thélios was born in Italy, close to the Dolomites. It's 1 hour drive. And Venice is also historically the most open city in Italy. It was a commercial city with, let's say, present in harbors in all the Mediterranean, so very open to the world, a city made of merchants. And also we are open to the world because, yes, we are the factory, but then we have over 15 offices around the world, and we talk with the global consumer, so it's a special connection. Then, of course, there's the cinema. The cinema, where historically sunglasses and optical frame they are a silent protagonist, silent actors in the movies. There are some movies where really you cannot think of the protagonist without that specific pair of frame. And I think, for example, there's this movie, The Big Lebowski. I don't know if you watch it. It was popular in the past, and you cannot think of that protagonist without his own sunglasses. And then we bought this company, it's called Vuarnet, and I found out after that the sunglasses were Vuarnet. But still, so you understand it's so important, really, the role of sunglasses in there, which that's why we decided that. Then we have the chance to talk with the movie stars. Then it's their choice. They want to use our sunglasses or other sunglasses, their choice. But in reality, it's become really a showcase, which is super important. So we started almost, I cannot say by chance, I mean, this was not, but there was an opportunity. It was at the end of the COVID, so Venice was restarting in a soft way. We had this opportunity, we jumped in. And we are a B2B company, so we don't need really to publish the name Thélios. It's not a goal. We rather need to push the brands of our portfolio. But at the end, it became also a situation where we gain legitimacy with our clients, with our partners, and also with our employees. It has been a massive internal branding engine. And then we bought, a few years later, another brand which is based in Los Angeles, which is Barton Perreira, and it's the brand of the stars of Hollywood. So there is this connection between cinema and sunglasses, which is everywhere you move, you find a connection. And so we had to be in Venice.
Yeah. Film really has the power to immortalize fashion, right? Ever since their debut in Hollywood in the early 1900s, eyewear has really emerged as this defining element of cinematic identity, with, as you've said, movie stars using these storytelling devices almost like an extension of their own personas. This said, how do you see Thélios contributing to the creation and celebration of these cultural moments at the intersection between cinema, eyewear and the arts in the coming years?
Difficult question. We keep doing what we did so far, meaning that we will be happy if the stars, the movie stars, the actors choose ourselves. The more creative we are, the more specific we are, the more we can contribute to shape characters. In the case of, for example, we have a franchising with 007 for Barton Perreira, which also that one happened by chance. And has become very successfully. So we'll keep doing this because it will be the cinema asking for us, I believe.
Looking ahead, are there any materials, design techniques, or collaborations that particularly excite you? I know you've been using 3D printing and experimenting with virtual try-ons for quite a while now.
3D printing is what excites me, but not because I like the execution, because it has two functions. First is, yes, you can do something which you cannot do with other materials, but then it has an impact on supply chain. It's much faster. And the supply chain, the time to market of eyewear is quite long, and it's longer from other categories. And 3D printing, which is still a new category that must be developed, and so cannot be used at massive scale, but can give really the chance to reduce the supply chain. Then, having said that, in eyewear there are three materials which will ever be important. One is acetate, which is a plastic, kind of plastic, but made of cellulose. The other is metal, any kind of metal, and the third is injected plastic. We are most in the first two, and they will always remain. But 3D printing is giving us some really opportunities of expression and reducing the supply chain.
And on the other side, are there any markets or geographical regions that you see as key for Thélios' expansion moving forward?
All Asia, for demographic reasons, for attitude of consumers, for need of in Asia, the need of optical frame is higher than Europe and Western world. So there is a massive opportunity there. We're quite young there, and everybody's saying that Asia has not been an easy market in the last 2 years. We're performing very well because we are meeting probably also needs of consumer of more affordable categories into luxury. Plus, there is this demographic trend that we are surfing. The second one is US, for different reasons in reality. If you go to Asia, you find fantastic, probably the most beautiful stores, optical stores in the world. If you go in the US, you find probably the most ugly store in the world, with some exception. But things are changing, no? And we believe we want to be a driver of change, helping opticians to elevate the experience they give to consumers. And of course, it's an economy which can react so fast, where I believe really we have an opportunity there.
Speaking of growth and diversification, with 13 brands under Thélios today, do you anticipate any further expansion in the portfolio? Are there certain categories of eyewear or types of brands that you think would be a synergistic fit for Thélios?
13 are a lot, meaning that you need to give the right attention. They are demanding, correctly demanding, and so we've been improving our portfolio quite significantly in a relatively really short period of time. So now, no, we are consolidating this.
Thinking more generally, what is the long-term vision for Thélios as it continues to grow? Do you see it becoming the dominant force in luxury eyewear, or is it the goal to remain an exclusive, selective curator of high-end collections?
We are both. We are both already, meaning that I think we play we are a relevant reality in luxury eyewear, very relevant. But at the same time, we don't have the goal of becoming big for becoming big. There was an interview where I said, I don't care about revenues. Of course, they're important, but what I care is to do our job properly. The revenues come after, so we have to be consistent. No? And when you decide that you put a limit to your distribution and you shrink it also sometimes because you want more quality, it means that you don't have the rush to arrive to a certain size, even though size is relevant. And so we keep doing this double role also in the future.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Thélios will be approaching its 10th anniversary in just 2 more years. If we were to meet again in 2027 and you told me that Thélios had a really successful first 10 years, what would have happened in those 10 years?
Well, starting from scratch, I was not there at the beginning, and it's something I'm really sorry about because I've been an adventure. So when I go to universities, usually I have a PowerPoint and I start from a drawing. That was the idea of the dream of Thélios 10 years ago. I arrived 4 years ago instead. So there was the goal that to me has been achieved of changing the parameters of how luxury eyewear was managed. So on one side, as I said, this partnership with the Maison and the dignity of creativity and execution that was needed in the market. There was a request for this approach. Second, and I repeat myself, the capability of today we have 3 factories, 2 in Italy in the Dolomite Valley and 1 in France, and we've been able to concentrate know-how that was really precious. Really, I want to transmit this. There are factories, but the human component in know-how is precious. And also there are factories that are in this valley where people are living and living somewhere else. They're going to live in big cities or immigrating in other countries. In reality, we're being able to give a dignity to this again, to this know-how, this manual know-how that has been so precious for 100 years in that valley, and that actually is talking with the world. So this is the second component. So be able to concentrate, develop, and perpetuate a know-how, which is a know-how which is technical and manual, but for this even more relevant and fragile at the same time. And third, I would be really happy if we said that consumers, but I think they are in the right direction, can equiparate eyewear to any other category of luxury, because they understand that behind the logo, behind the price, there is a research, there is quality, there is a human component which is super, super precious, and it's different from just putting in a factory, putting a stamp and having a product out.
You mentioned this human component. Earlier this year, it was announced that Thélios, along with the LVMH Métier d'Excellence, launched the 3rd edition of the Italian Craftsmanship Prize, which aims to discover and celebrate, really, the many hidden gems amongst Italy's talented craftsmen and women. Could you please tell us more about this initiative? Beyond recognition, how does Thélios support the artisans who are discovered through this award?
Well, it's a super interesting initiative launched by LVMH, where we sponsor a component of it, which is called Maestri d'Eccellenza, which means professional of excellence, let's translate like that, where people with some particular skills can apply, and there's a jury where we will select the most relevant ones. We will coach them, mentor them, financially support them. But we're talking about something which is really specific. You can find a lady who is very good at knitting, or you can find a man who is developing guitars homemade in a unique way that was forgotten, and he recovered from the tradition. So it's an initiative that also, regardless the support of these artists or craftsmen, it has a communication element which is super important. Italy is a country where there are skills, craftsmanship skills that are the risk of being forgotten and lost. Because people want to be managers, want to be doctors, but then these works from the past are disappearing. Instead, this initiative is communicating to young people, look, these jobs These capabilities are important. They have been part of our culture. They need to be, has the same dignity of intellectual works. And so this is the final goal. And of course there is a return, because we will have, let's say, craftsmen that can support the luxury for manufacturing for the future.
On this topic of nurturing talent, if someone studied your routine or shadowed you for 24 hours, what would they learn your priorities are?
Lucky them if they understand. But I mean, my job is so diverse and every day different, which is the reason why I like it. One important point is the focus I put on probably three things. First are, of course, numbers. I look a lot of numbers constantly in my life. I look at things from different perspectives in numbers. The second is how much time I speak about organization and people. My HR director receives probably 15 calls from me every day, but because it helps me to really think in all the time how we develop the team, the right processes, which is fundamental. And the third and last point is how in the same day I need to constantly look, zoom in what will happen tomorrow, and zoom out what will happen in the next 5 years. And there's a constant shift from zoom in, zoom out, from the short term to the long term, which is necessary, and it's really the mindset that I need to keep.
And on behalf of all the students and young professionals out there who are aspiring to a career in luxury or business leadership, what skills do you believe are necessary? You mentioned earlier being aware, being self-aware, and taking advantages of new opportunities while still knowing when and how to say no. But are there certain qualities that you think are crucial to have today that perhaps in the past were not as important?
Look, at the end, one thing of luxury is that it's an environment, an industry, where you have unbelievable professionals. In any fields, because from product to sales, to retail, to supply chain, etc. What I notice is that there's probably a lack of generalists. So being able to develop a rounded understanding of all the elements of the business is what gives a further advantage. Also, in some cases, if you go in small companies, small brands, you have the opportunity to see everything, because by definition, no? A big company you specialize, a small company you are generalist. And then arriving in big companies, being a generalist who is able to go across in analyzing the business, it's something that is really relevant. Of course, there is one characteristic that I notice in all the people in luxury, which is crucial, is the attitude, the mindset of excellence, really, of having the perfectionism and not accepting anything which is absolutely not perfect.
We will be opening up for audience questions in just a moment, but before we do so, Alessandro, it is Voiceroom tradition to end our interview segment with a series of 4 questions. It's nothing too daunting, I promise. Are you ready?
I am.
Yes. We often say that the future belongs to those who prepare for it. So my first question to you is, what are you doing today that you believe will have the greatest impact on your vision for tomorrow?
Look, at the end, there are many things. One thing is people. That sounds banal, but in reality, you need to have the right people to do the right things that you are not doing today. And there is a layer which is, to me, is particularly important, which probably is the layer which you will be very soon, which is the middle management. Because you develop the future with the middle management. And engaging them, bringing people who are also from different industries. Eyewear is an industry, like many others, where there is thinking that you need to be from eyewear if you want to have a career in eyewear. But I'm probably the wrong example because I've been there for 15 years now. But in reality, that's not true, and you need different point of views. You need people who can tell you why you do that. And middle managers are those people. So to me, this layer is the crucial, is the one where I'm investing, when I try to engage, communicate to them, and try to make them accountable of things, and letting them feel that are part of the journey of this company, and so they can leave a mark. And I have to say that with this generation, we have an advantage because they want to feel part of it. They also get bored much easily than me, which is another characteristic you need to manage. But really, people and middle management is the one thing that will make the difference for the future.
Second, what do you think is the single biggest opportunity that business leaders must seize today to create a better tomorrow?
I go back to the same thing. This generation, the Gen Z, which is entering, as I enter already, in the business, it's fantastic for the reason of the entrepreneurship. Meaning that when I started to work, maybe it was Italy, I don't know, because it was not the most exciting economy of the world, but people just wanted a stable work in a multinational, and very few were targeting entrepreneurship. Now I see that worldwide, of course, there is an environment where entrepreneurship is more diffuse, which doesn't mean just doing startups. It means that people want a purpose and leave a mark. And there's a different way of working with this generation, which to me is fantastic. And I'll give you an example that, for example, there is the point of sustainability. It's a topic I don't like. I think it's super important. It's super important. So important that it cannot be just marketing, and there's a lot of marketing behind it. And so what we did, we launched recently a project where sustainability for our company, it's a bottom-up process. So we asked who wants to volunteer for a sustainability committee. And we selected 30 people from any department, production, HR, sales, strategy, etc. And they will have to tell us, to the executives, how they envision our sustainability, what project they suggest to us, and then they will be accountable for that. And it's an example of internal entrepreneurship, as I said, that with different generation, I think would not work. With this generation, it doesn't work. And to me, that's the opportunity of managing differently a company. It's not always possible, of course. So you need to have some traditional processes, some hierarchy, etc. But there are elements of bottom-up management that in this situation really have an opportunity to give a further boost to companies.
Third, what is one change that you hope to see in business, in leadership, or in the luxury industry? And how will implementing this change impact that vision that you've had in your head for the future?
There are many changes. So one thing that today is very, very urgent and important is, because I come from luxury, which is the opposite it may look the opposite of it, but artificial intelligence actually is pervasive to any business. And I'm excited. I'm excited because it can make life easier, yes. But you also need how work will change in the future. So it's easy to say artificial intelligence will take out many tasks. But then it means that people need to do something different. So you will need people really to focus on using the mind rather than doing things, if I think about managers. So the time I spend with doing presentation, myself and everybody in the organization, is crazy. This time will disappear because it will be from days to a few minutes to do a presentation, but then you have days where you have to focus on thinking. And so the way of working will have to change dramatically. Also, cross-generation, the impact is different because some people of older generation will just say, what's my role now? And so, but they need to stay in the work, in the job market. And so managers, leaders should think about what is the best use of resources, human resources, when this technology is really becoming effective. Today, it's still very unclear.
And finally, last question. If you had all the resources in the world and you knew that you wouldn't fail, what dream would you go all in on?
So in a company, by definition, resources are limited, and that's the nice thing because you have the excitement of finding creative solutions. So probably there are two things. One is I would put all my money in any startup who find a solution against the dictatorship of Zoom and Teams, because it's really a terrible, it has a terrible impact on the way people work. Instead of being efficient, they become inefficient. The other thing that I'm passionate about, the thing that really would change the world, that I don't have this ambition, is after I've been living in Russia, in South Africa, in Brazil, but also in Italy and France, I see that I would really focus in primary schooling, which is something that really can change the world, and the quality of schooling in the world. Primary school, not university, primary school is really what is not the level that the world deserves today, and that could change really the world.
Well, thank you, Alessandro. That was a fascinating interview.
Thank you.
So we will be taking audience questions now. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Kindly remember that this is a closed space, but please project, and please keep your questions concise, respectful, and relevant to the discussion. Let's start in front here.
Hi, as a business leader, can you hear me?
Yes.
As a business leader, how do you balance between making cost-effective decisions while upholding the level of craftsmanship that is so salient to Thélios? For example, you talked a lot about the Dolomites manufacturing site. Have you ever considered manufacturing offshore to lower the cost of goods? Like, is that a possibility?
No, it's not. There is, let's say, a business reason, an ethical reason, a marketing reason. So in eyewear, when you go around the world and you say it's made in Italy, consumers understand that is a value and a different quality. And so that's the reason why marketing-wise, let's say made in Italy is relevant. Then quality-wise also is very high. The cost is very high, of course. There's an ethical reason, meaning that once again, this know-how is precious and we don't want to lose it. We have a social role in that valley where we are, no? And so we believe in that. Of course, we need to make money. We are a company, we have to do that. But at the same time, there are some decisions that could be more cost-effective, but that we skip. At the end, one important point in luxury is control. Control quality, control of execution. So everything, all in the same place allows you to be sure that the quality is what you need. And that's why we can do it only in Italy.
So thank you very much for your wonderful discussion and the insights that you gave us. My question is regarding Thélios, especially in the time frame before you joined the company. But how was it?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Especially?
Before you joined the company, how was Thélios able to cultivate these relationships with all of your different clients and develop these relationships to the point where it's the exclusive eyewear manufacturer for all these very, very big brands?
So I was not there, as you said, but the brands may decide to work with us or not. The thing that they work with us, it means that we are responding also on their vision for the category. And most of Maison, really, all the Maisons had this needs of elevating the category, as I said. We invest a lot in the relationship with them. We have dedicated teams from different departments that work dedicated to each single Maison, So Amazon has a correspondent team in Thélios. So the level of integration we have that start from really from the briefing of the collection to the execution to the control of the quality of the product, to the control of the execution in store is very high, and we calibrate with them also further enhancement of this quality, because one thing of luxury is that the quality of yesterday will be beat by the quality of tomorrow, and I'm talking about quality and 360 degree of execution. So that's probably the reason why we've been able to customize the relationship based on the needs and the vision and the path we develop with them.
So we often hear people talk about like the first entry-level position or first internship, but how is it like getting hired as CEO, and what was that whole process like?
Sorry, I couldn't understand the last part of the question.
Oh, what was it like getting hired as the CEO, and what was that whole process like?
Okay. A lot of interviews, let me say, I think that, as I said there, of course, the industry knowledge was a point, but also the transversal knowledge across markets and the capability of understanding each single market was a point. I was lucky enough to master different fields. So usually you have people who manage sales, you manage marketing, and manufacturing is another thing. I was lucky enough to have experience in all the components. So at the end, being a CEO is connecting the dots, no? It's not being a specialist. So I stress a lot the concept of being generalist versus a specialist. You're a generalist, you understand a bit of everything, and so you connect the dots, and then it's the team that has let's say the capabilities to do the work in the execution. So the process was that, of course, as not having the CEO before in my CV, it means that the company was taking a risk. I hope it was a risk well placed. But let's say it's also true that when I joined, Thélios was still a small company, and so the risk was limited. Today we're bigger. Also, when you have to scale up a business, you probably need a young person that wants to really to take the risk, and that was the moment where Thélios was in that moment. But the process is tough.
Beyond financial metrics, how do you define success at Thélios?
Well, good question, and I answer with the question that your colleagues asked, meaning that if there are other qualitative ways, if the Maison are happy, it means that we're doing a good job, meaning that the category has been meeting the expectation to other more consolidated categories. The other point is we look on how our products are sold, where they're sold, and if we feel that we're giving a different experience than the normal distribution of eyewear, then we're doing our job. It's soft understanding what is happening. Then I have to say it's very banal, but if you walk on the street in Paris and you see your glasses in the face of the right ladies, you're doing the right job.
So, hi Alessandro. I found it really interesting when you compared sneakers to the eyewear industry and also with watches. So I was wondering, in terms of elevating the luxury eyewear category, do you see the price point increasing, and to what level? And what kind of events do you think needs to happen to create a shift in consumer psychology?
Good question. Of course, price point it's a psychological component. I mentioned what is the band we play in. Once I met a designer, an eyewear designer, it's not working with us, and he told me, I'm not designing eyewear. I'm designing object to be transferred to the next generation. Once you do something, say something like this, it means that you take out the price components. This is happening here and there. We are also putting in our collection something which is going in that direction. And so once you're able really to elevate price, but just price as a recognition of quality. So it's not price for price, it's price with no quality, price with no creativity. Consumers are smarter, they understand, and they don't embrace the category. So that's a bit the point. Then I believe that we will be always the entry point of luxury, a recruiting category that can be open to a wider public versus other categories.
Hi, Alessandro. Thank you so much for sharing. I love how you shared a lot about, I think, your personal upbringing as well as your experience in corporate and now being the CEO of Thélios. And what really struck me was how when you mentioned that when you're younger, you're more of like an introvert and you're someone that wasn't so sure about where you want to go and you're always exploring. And I think especially for university students, we see a lot of friends around us who have this very clear direction and you always feel like you're behind. So I wonder, what was kind of your guiding principle, or if you can condense your way of approaching, say university and say life into like a one-liner that keeps you going, what would that be?
Okay, I look for fun. Meaning that the things I want to do, they must excite me. Meaning that I need to look back and say, I change things. That's the fil rouge of my career. As I said, I get bored easily. And so I need this kind of things that makes me motivated and can be very different, very different. And so I respect a lot people who enter in investment banking and they stay in the same bank for 25 years. It's fine, it's just not me. I need the changes, constant changes.
Can I ask a question? Yes. Awesome. Hi, Alessandro. That was awesome. By the way, Caitlin, that was crazy. You memorized all the answer questions. That was awesome. So my question is on technology and fashion. As Caitlin asked about the Ray-Ban glasses as well, Apple has started the VR, but they discontinued that. Mark Zuckerberg started the Ray-Ban, but he's only on wearing. So my question is Thélios hoping to make fashion, technology in fashion more accessible and scale that? And follow up on that, are there any technologies that are currently not feasible that you're personally excited to experiment and implement in your eyewear offering?
We look at everything. Then will technology comes into our luxury segment? Maybe yes, maybe no. We are observing. The things are moving so fast, then it will also depend on how consumer reacts. Today, for sure, they're not ready. I believe that luxury not necessarily must be a first mover in technology. But if adopted, it must be at the highest level and with the specific features which differentiate from themselves. So I don't know how to answer your question. I mean, we observe closely in a world that is changing. The thing that we talk about, a lot of craftsmanship, it doesn't exclude that in the future things will change. And so that's why we have the obligation to observe and understand, because it's a market, eyewear, it's an interesting market that until 10 years ago, nothing has changed for decades, nothing. And now in the 10 years, 15 years, it's changing completely in terms of product, in terms of business model, in terms of perimeters, boundaries of the industry. So we're observing, and let's see.
If you were to step down as CEO for 6 months and work in one of your departments, which department would you pick and why?
Sorry, can you repeat a bit louder?
If you had to step down as CEO for 6 months and work in just one of your departments,
Okay.
which department would you pick and why?
Business development, which is the department that does projects and explore things that maybe we don't apply. What your colleague just probably mentioned. It's because it's the one which is most diverse and it's the one where you can learn more faster all the dynamics of the other different departments. Yeah, that is that, absolutely. Nice question.
First of all, thank you so much for giving us an insight into your life and your career as well. I admired how you sort of spoke about self-awareness and also an appreciation for work-life balance. I'd love to know how you manage that yourself and what you do to unwind after your, let's say, 9 to 5.
Well, it's not 9 to 5, but it's not much longer. I mean that I have a family, so I take my boy or my girl every day at school, and then my life starts. I put boundaries. I really put boundaries. I mean that if you want, I believe that if you want to be a good professional, also your personal situation must be balanced and controlled, because otherwise there is. You will report your situation also in work, no? It's not always the case, but it's what I believe. And so I put really boundaries. So when I'm at home, I'm at home. In the weekend, I am in the weekend. I don't take many holidays during the year. But in August, I take 3 weeks, whatever happened, 3 weeks that I go with my family and I stop thinking about work. It's that reason why really it's a matter of values. Family is a value, and so you can't put your values on the side if you want to be a good professional. That's how I see it.
And on that note, Alessandro, it has been an absolute pleasure hosting you in Oxford today. Thank you so much for giving us a glimpse into the mindset, discipline, and philosophy that has led you to where you are and that has made Thélios into the company that it is today. You've reminded us that, of course, true sight is, true vision really, is not just a matter of sight, but of foresight, and that both luxury and leadership are ultimately defined by the ability to recognize ideas and qualities worth framing. To everyone in the audience, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. I hope you'll be leaving this room not just with a deeper understanding of the luxury industry, but with a shifted perspective, a sharper focus, and perhaps a new lens on how you wish to learn and lead in the future. Please join me in giving Alessandro one final round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.